mechanism. He have a lot of experience. But if any engine problem comes and he need to control, for that only special people will be there. Everybody cannot do changes in the engine. Everybody cannot correct the problems in engine. Everybody can do other type of problem solving. But engine, only specialized people will be there. Even for a bike engine also. That means you go to a bike mechanic and say my engine have a problem. Then he will tell that we will show it to engine specialists. There will be an engine specialist who is specialized in handling that engine. Software also, so many engines will be working. Routing engine, rendering engine, view engines. In experience level, they will ask these questions. What is the role of routing engine? Routing engine role is verifying whether requested path is correctly matching or not. What is the role of rendering engine? Rendering engine is responsible for processing your request. What is the role of view engine? View engine responsibility is to generate output and display. The output that you see, that is managed by which engine? View. On screen, whatever you see. I told you MVC, na? In MVC architecture, view represents UI. The final view output is generated by which engine? View engine. The processing will be done by which engine? Rendering. Request will be processed by which engine? Routing. So many engines are working in your Angular. So that much in depth, I am not going. We're not required also. As of now, just the basic flow you need to understand. Okay. So this is understandable to everyone, right? You make a request will go to web server, that will be processed by handler. Using a routing engine, it will verify. Once routing engine finds the path, it will load the component. Now in that component, what are the phases? You may ask, like, why do I need to learn these phases? You need to learn these phases to understand the issues happening in the component. If component is not responding fast, if component is delayed in output, if component is not responding, then we need to know where the problem occurred. That we can track by using these events. These events are very important to understand where the problem occurred. For example, I will tell you the flow basic. Suppose you made an order of food on Swiggy, Zomato. You made an order in Swiggy for food. Now it is taking long, it is taking more time to deliver you. Where it is slow? You ordered food and it is very much delayed. Your food is not delivered. It is taking time. Where it may take time? So many phases are there. So many phases are there. First phase, you made an order. When you made an order, the restaurant have to confirm your order. That means it may take time in confirming your order. So delay is in confirming order. Understood? Restaurant confirmed the order and it start preparing the order. Delay may be in preparing the order. Restaurant preparing the order and Swiggy is unable to find a delivery partner for you. Am I right? That means delay is in finding delivery partner. Now delivery partner found. So, and he went to restaurant, but restaurant haven't finished preparing your order. That means now the problem is in restaurant side. And restaurant prepared, finished your order. Delivery partner picked up your order, but is not reaching you. That means there may be delay in traffic or something. That means if anybody asks where your application failed, why it is slow, why it is not working, where it is slow, you need to track every phase. That means you cannot simply say it is slow. You need to know where it is slow, why it is slow. All those things can be done if we know the phases. We know the phases. So those phases are called as what? Life cycle hooks. And what are the life cycle hooks? I will show you here. The basic life cycle hooks, various phases of life cycle hooks here. Let me show you the flow first. A basic architectural flow I will show you. A small presentation is there. I will check. Right. So the basic flow of the presentation, this is phases are same. These are the versions. Let me see. Yeah. You can see actually the life cycle hooks. This is the engine. These are IV engine. Scroll down. Yeah. Yeah. So these are the life cycle phases. These are the basic life cycle hooks in order. That means every component will have these methods. Internally, these phases are working. One by one, we will explore them. We will see what are these phases. Internally, these phases are working. Now, let's see what are these phases, how these hooks will work. Remember, before these phases will start, actually, before these phases, there will be an option that is constructor. Understood? What is the purpose of constructor? It will create an object for component. For component, it will create an object. After component is created, now these phases will start. These phases will start. So one by one, that is the order of the phases. I will explain detailedly. See, what is the first phase here? So every component life cycle. So the life cycle hooks comprises of following methods. Life cycle hooks comprises of methods. The first important method is ng on changes. The first method is ng on changes. The first method is ng on changes. Ng on changes. What happens in this method, I will tell you. What happens in this phase? This is the first phase. What happens in this phase? What are the activities performed in this phase? Actually, it is the first phase that starts after the component object is created. After the component object is created, this is the first phase. That means if anybody asks what is the first phase of life cycle, the first phase of life cycle is ng on changes. Ng on changes. Now, what happens in this phase? First point, in this phase, memory is allocated for references. Memory is allocated for references in component. The memory is allocated for references in component. Memory is allocated for references in component. That means here, suppose you declared public some name, it is what type? String. That means now what it have to do? It should allocate memory. It should allocate memory for which property? Name. So the memory is allocated for the references in component. That means in the component, you have references, and for those references, first memory is allocated. After allocating memory, next point, values are initialized. Values are initialized into memory. Values are initialized into memory. That means the initialization of values also happens in this phase only. Values are initialized means we have public, name, and some value. And some value. Now, this is very tricky question in interviews actually. The tricky question is nothing but, so we will show this line and we will ask that, is any change occurred in name? Is any change occurred in name? Because this comes under, that means this is referred as change detection. This is referred as change detection. This is very, very important technical word. Now, tell me, in this line, we initialized a value into a property. And we are saying that this comes under change detection. Change detection means some change happened in the value. Some change happened in that reference. What change happened there? What change happened? Why it comes under change detection? Why initializing comes under change detection? Why initializing comes under change detection? Here we are not changing any value. Na? For example, John is changed with some David. Then change. We are not changing anything. Na? Then why it comes under change detection? Why it comes under change detection? Because before this John is initialized into name. What is name? Name type is string, but what value it is having? It is having undefined. Understood? That means it is having undefined. Once you put some value, that undefined is changed with this value. Na? That is the reason this is change. Many people are confused. Why this is changed? I am just initializing one value. I am just initializing a value, and why it comes under change detection? Because before the value goes into the memory, what is that memory having? Undefined. Undefined is changed to name. Undefined is changed to John. That means before the change, it is undefined. After the change, this is John. That is the reason initialization of value into memory, this comes under which category? Change detection. NG on changes. NG on changes. That means first memory is allocated, values are initialized. Values are initialized into that memory. These two basic things comes under change detection. Right? Next important, another one is, this is change detection happening. After that, you have initialized the value. After initializing the value, after initialization of the value, now what happens is, so the values are binded The values are binded to UI. The values are binded to UI. They are binded to UI. How you bind values to UI? By using which techniques? By using which techniques? Interpolation. Am I right? By using interpolation, by using property binding, and by using attribute binding. So all this comes under change detection. All this comes under change detection. That means binding these values to the UI. You assigned some value and you are binding the value. Binding the values to UI. This comes under which one? Change detection. That means in interviews they ask, so what are the activities happens in change detection? The activities happen in change detection. Initialization. Initialization also change detection. Property binding, attribute binding, another one, interpolation. Interpolation. Not only that, identifying the changes. Not only that, that means the changes in UI are identified and updated to the data source. This is managed by using event binding. This also comes under which one? Change detection. That means the values are binded to UI. Whatever changes you are making in the UI, they are updated back. That means event binding. Because you know that event binding handles two-way, na? Two-way. That means even you write like this. So NG model that is going to manage two-way binding. It contains property binding and event binding. Na? Square brace refers to property binding. Parenthesis refers to event binding. That means change detection is the major phase in Angular lifecycle. Angular component lifecycle starts with ng on changes. Initializing, assigning the memory, initializing values into memory, binding those values to UI, identifying the changes and updating back. All this comes under change detection. This all comes under change detection. So remember, questions may be asked in different ways in the same concept. They may ask like, property binding comes under which phase? Property binding comes under which phase? ng on changes. Event binding comes on which phase? ng on changes. Initializing values comes under which phase? ng on changes. Why initializing value comes under ng on changes? Because before the value is assigned, it is undefined. In many interviews, they ask, who is identifying the changes? Who is identifying these changes, managing? I told you about NG model, if you remember. So actually, the changes are detected. The changes are detected and managed by simple changes object. So the changes are detected and managed by simple changes object. There is an object called simple changes. This simple changes object is a member of, so object which is a member. It is a member of ng on changes. It is a member of ng on changes. Actually, it is a member of on changes, not ng on changes, it is a member of on changes. Member of on changes. Actually, simple changes object provides an algorithm with two values. What is the algorithm with two values? Algorithm with two values. One is previous value. Previous value is equal to current value. If previous value is equal to current value, then it means no change detected. No change detected. If previous value is not equal to current value, if previous value is not equal to current value, then change detected. This is the matrix it uses. This is the algorithm it uses. That means who is responsible for identifying the changes? Simple changes object. How it will identify the changes? By using two properties: current value, previous value. So current value and previous value both are same. That means, you see, this is the matrix actually it uses. For example, suppose public name is a string type. Now, what is the previous value? Previous, here I will tell you. Again, we have defined. So, and here we will put equal to some John. Now, what is the point here is previous value. Previous value is what? Name is equal to undefined. Undefined. Name is equal to undefined. Current value is what? Name is equal to John. That means, so previous value is not equal to current value. That means change detected. Am I right? That is change detected. This practically I will show you how this practically tested. We can test it practically. So that is ng on changes. So lot of activities are performed on ng on changes. That is the reason it is the key concept in interviews. So change detection. What is change detection in Angular? What are the activities performed in change detection? And why they are under change detection? These all questions are important. And who manages change detection? So this is important. Let's see here. Suppose I will just show you one point. Suppose any component I will take here. Actually, you see, suppose we will go to any component. In the component, we will use the TypeScript file. This is the class. Class is some parent component. This class is having, so on it implements what? On changes. So it implements on changes. It implements on changes. That is nothing but it is implementing on changes means, so we have to implement. So on changes, this is, yeah. So on changes we have to define. And on changes actually managed by a method called what? ng on changes. You see, it is using simple changes. This ng on changes is depending on simple changes. And that simple changes object, let's go to definition. Right click, go to definition. You go to definition, this simple changes object, you can see it is coming from which one? Simple change class. It is a custom type. It is simple change class. Right click on simple change class, go to definition. Simple change is having previous value, current value. It is also having first change. Now this is previous value, current value. If previous value and current value are matching, it will identify that no change occurred. If previous value is not matching with current value, it will identify that change occurred. Then it will automatically update. So actually all this we have to write in JavaScript jQuery. But what is advantage of Angular? It is internally written and given to you in the form of a library. That is why Angular is a framework. Framework means everything is built. You have to just use those built-in features. So you don't need to write everything. Actually, to identify whether the change occurred or not, we have to write a logic manual. This is internally written, you just use it. That means you implement ng on changes, it will do it. I will show you how to detect the changes and all, I will tell you. But initially, this is important to understand. These all points are very important related to ng on changes. So ng on changes, this is the first phase. Am I right? So I hope you got a clarity on this. I will show example also on this, how this changes works, how it detects, I will tell you. So tell me, what are the activities performed on ng on changes? Allocating memory for references, initializing value, property binding, attribute binding, event binding, event style class binding. Understood? So, and event binding, and but not custom events. But not custom events. Event binding is only internal events. That means on change, on click, only these. Custom events are not handled here. They are managed by another, because custom events are not internal events. These are the events written by you. Those events are not managed here. That means here better we say all the events, event binding will happen. So here a simple point is event binding, and here not custom events. Not custom events. Custom events will happen in another phase. Those will happen in another phase, right? It is not custom events. Then what are the other events? Click, change, key up, blur, focus, all this comes under that. This is the first phase of life cycle. Now, in this, we have other phases here. Other phases, on init, do check. So init check, all so many options are there. That we'll see in next session. Tomorrow we will finish. Okay. Tomorrow we will have a complete overview on all the phases. Today we learned only one phase, that is ng on changes. Then net other phases we will see in tomorrow session, right? Then I will give you one small example on that, right? Then we will go into other concepts, services, pipes, how to handle them. Okay, right?
Recording stopped.